The world is full of complainers, but the fact is, nothing comes with a guarantee. I don't care if you're the Pope of Rome, the President of the United States, or even Man of the Year. Something can always go wrong. And go ahead, complain. Tell your problems to your neighbor. Ask for help. Watch them fly. Now in Russia, they got it mapped out so that everyone pulls for everyone else. That's the theory anyway. But what I know about is Texas, and down here, you're on your own. I'm Isaac Sims.
I'm Olivia Clement.
I'm Eric Pham.
And I'm your producer, Walter Lyle.
Today we are picking up our Flyover Essential viewing series where we go watch, cover, and discuss movies that highlight the Flyover Country experience. In this case, the Badlands of Texas.
For today's episode, we are covering the Coen brothers' first feature film debut, Blood Simple, starring John Gates, Francis McDormand, Dan Hedaya. Is that how you say that? Dan Hedaya?
I believe so.
Cool. I should have looked that up before. My bad. Emmett Walsh.
Blood Simple has a very straightforward plot, but as often with many Coen brothers films, the story includes many fun twists and turns to reach our final destination. The story is about the owner of a small-town Texas bar who finds out that his wife is having an affair. The bar owner then hires a PI to kill his wife and her lover.
How about some background? Eric, you're leading this one. I think you had the opportunity to watch some behind the scenes and special features. I'm really excited to get into this because this was filmed in 1984. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
And it's early 80s movie, you can tell, but it feels very much like a Coen brothers movie. So I don't know. Should we like start with our overall impressions of this movie before we dive in?
Let's open it up to roundtable discussion. Olivia, Isaac, what did y'all think of the movie?
Olivia,
I really enjoyed it. So when this, so we picked this movie, or this was something we voted for, right? Like, I think Eric gave us a list of movies to pick from, and I think Walter and Isaac were just like, it doesn't matter, we'll pick whatever. And Eric had voted for this one, and after I looked at the list, I was like, I want to see this. I was very intrigued by this because I saw that it was a Coen brother movie, and their movies are always really interesting. And then I saw that Francis McDormand was in it, and man, I love Francis. So I was like, yeah, let's do this. I was intrigued by the storyline, and after watching it, I was just like, holy crap. Like, there were, which is typical Coen brothers, in it's typical in their movies that there are lots of twists and turns, and there were lots of times where I was like, this can't be happening, and it was. And so just seeing that kind of unfold and seeing how crazy this story ended up being, it was great. I love that this is their debut. And really, this is something that shows that the Coen brothers have been pretty much like on the same level the entirety of their career. I don't know if you guys would think that, but
that's a great way to say it.
They set the standard high for themselves in 84 with this movie, and they've just continued to be, as they've like kind of gone through different types of movies, all in all, they are at the same standard for every movie, it seems.
Yep.
I'm really glad you enjoyed it, and this is our second Coen brothers movie that we're discussing. We discussed True Grit before. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure we're going to revisit them because Isaac had said before we were recording that, "Oh brother, where art thou?" It was an important movie to him, and I can see that, of course, being a Flyover movie as well. And there are a couple other movies I thought about that would fit into this series. And I think this was a great starter. This is their first film debut, like you had said, and we'll get into some of the background of that. There's some really cool trivia that I learned about while I was researching the movie, so we'll jump into that, and I'm glad you enjoyed it, Olivia. Isaac?
Yeah, me and Eric were talking before we started recording about how I started The Tragedy of Macbeth, the new Coen Brothers movie, or I guess it's just technically directed by Joel. I guess.
Did y'all know Ethan? He retired from. Well, not. He's taking like a break from movies.
Yeah. So I knew that they hadn't like taken an
stage plays.
acrimonious split or anything like that, but I knew that I was like, yeah, Joel alone was involved in The Tragedy of Macbeth and married to Frances McDormand, and
Power couple.
And Tragedy of Macbeth looks incredible. I stopped halfway through because we went to small group. And I might try to finish it tonight, actually. But yes, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? It's funny because I'm looking at the Coen brothers, or Joel Coen's filmography, which Ethan Coen has credits on each of them as well. But I kind of pan over each of many of the movies that I've seen from them. All have hearts, like on my letterbox to indicate like these are some of my favorite movies, like True Grit, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, The Big Lebowski, No Country for Old Men. It's Inside Llewyn Davis, Fargo. It is incredible. Olivia, you were so right on. Like they started hot and they didn't cool down. Like even their people would say, I think that like Hail Caesar is one of their more disappointing films, and I haven't seen it. But there's this degree of excellence that they have.
You know what you're
so
getting
fun
with
to talk
Coen
about.
Brothers movies. You know you're going to get an enjoyable movie with fun, quirky characters.
Yep. Yep. And Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? The thing that my family says all the time is, I don't want no fop. I'm a Dapper Dan man. Well, ain't this a geographical oddity? 2 weeks away from everywhere. Like I could probably
so
quote that
quotable.
entire movie. I've seen it so many times.
Yep.
I love that that's a movie that your family loves too, because that was a movie. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou was a movie that my family loved. Like, my I remember my great uncle has. I don't know if he still does. I assume he does, but he bought the soundtrack on CD, and I remember being in the car with him all the time, and we would constantly listen to that soundtrack. And there's a part where the kid is there and they're talking about his mom, and the dad is like, well, his mom, are you in an OFT? And I reference that all the time.
Are you in an OFT?
and no one ever gets it. So I love that you guys also love.
Have we never talked about how?
I don't think so.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Well,
I don't know how we have
Jess
it.
and I got married. We were married for about a year, and I was like, man, I love this movie. I haven't watched it in forever. And she was like, we watched it like a ton growing up, and we like bonded over it because we have pretty different tastes in movies. But
Nice.
There's that, and then we just when they pick up the guy with the guitar and he's like, I just sold my soul to the devil, and Delmar is sitting there soaking wet because he just got baptized, and George Clooney's like, looks like I'm the only one who's unaffiliated. He's like driving the car.
All right, we got to save this because obviously we have to do an Oh Brother, Where Art Thou episode now.
That's what I'm hearing.
It's so true. It's hard not to talk about it, but could sing the praises about all of their movies.
Quick producer's note.
Yeah.
Quick producer's note. Walter has chimed in and said his family also loves Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Nice. Nice. There we go. Okay, so we have to do one of those. But we have done True Grit, an entire episode dedicated to that. Incredible movie. We love that movie. We love Jeff Bridges. We love Haley Steinfeld, Matt Damon. Go listen to that episode if you like that movie. So, Eric, why don't you take it away? Or I guess I didn't say what I thought about.
I was waiting for your thoughts, and you just talked about
Blood Simple
for like 5 minutes.
Blood Simple. Blood Simple is a true slow burn. That's what I told Walter yesterday because he was trying to decide whether or not to watch it with his wife, and I said it's a true slow burn. It pays off, but you have to be patient. As opposed to a lot of, as we were joking a couple days ago, Eric, about A24 horror movies being really truly boring, or some A24 horror movies being truly boring, like not numbskull, like just totally numbingly boring, and them saying it's a slow burn. Like this movie pays off. It makes sense. It's incredibly acted, directed, produced, scored, almost every level. And it's just cool seeing them operate with a lot less resources, because
Yes.
I hadn't seen this movie before, and this was their first. So
That's a great call out, because there's really no unimportant scene in this movie, which is in slow burn movies, bad slow burn movies. There's just empty scenes that don't contribute to the plot. Every detail you see on the screen, every little action a character does, it eventually adds to the plot and culminates into the finale, and you can kind of see how all the pieces fit together. And it's pretty incredible how the Coen brothers and everybody that worked on this movie were able to create this kind of story with the limited budget and resources that you had mentioned, Isaac, with it being their first movie. So I'm glad y'all both enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot as well.
Eric, how many times have you seen this movie?
This was my
about to ask
first watch.
Oh, okay.
cool.
I owned the Criterion for I don't know how long, and it was collecting dust. That's why I really wanted to watch it. One of my New Year's resolutions is to finally watch some of the movies I own. So this is hopefully
Off to a good start.
Yes, off to a good start with this. I enjoyed it a lot. I'm a big fan of the Coen brothers. Big Lebowski is one of my favorite movies of all time. I've watched that movie probably 20 or 30 times. Not exaggerating. So I'm really glad that we were able to watch this together and discuss on the podcast. So before we jump into some of the more discussion we have, quick background on the movie. It was directed and written by Joel and Ethan Coen. This was their first movie together. I think they had. I think they did some shorts before this, but this was their first feature-length movie. The cinematography was done by Barry Sonnenfeld and is one of the standout parts of the movie. I don't know if they did anything after this with Barry. I think they were frequently collaborated with Roger Deakins a lot in their later movies. The cast, of course, Olivia named all them off. And another fun fact is there's a Chinese remake of this movie called A Simple Noodle Story, directed by one of China's greatest film directors, Zhang Yimou. I did not know that movie existed, but that's one I'm going to have to watch now. And we'll go into some of this background behind this, but a lot of film critics in the film circle say this is the greatest independent film ever made.
Wow.
There's the really cool story about the way that the Coens raised the funding for this movie. I think they had kind of a relationship with Sam Raimi, and Sam Raimi had helped them come up with the ideas to fund this movie, and they made a short trailer where Bruce Campbell played the character of Emmett Walsh. No, he played Dan Hedaya's character, and he's laying on the road in front of the car. That famous scene when he's trying to get rid of the body, and Bruce Campbell is playing that laying on the ground. And they shot that trailer, and they marketed that trailer around to raise funding to produce and make the movie. So that's a cool little piece, fun fact, and it's just incredible how this movie. I had no idea that it was made with such limited resources until I started reading on it after I had watched it. I was watching, I was like, wow, this is pretty incredible, and it was shot on a shoestring budget. So.
And it also has a fantastic cast.
Yes.
Yep.
I mean, this was Frances McDormand's first role, but I mean, clearly she went on to be very successful. But also Dan Hedaya, that dude has been in a lot of stuff. Yes. He is in one of my all-time favorite movies, Clueless. Emmett Walsh that dude has been in everything. I know when that guy shows up on a movie or in a movie, I know it's gonna be good, even if it's kind of a maybe cheesy kids movie. He was in Snow Dogs with Cuba Gooding Jr. But even then, it's a good movie, and so you know you're in for a treat when that guy shows up. And so just the cast itself is so good, and it's kind of amazing that they were able to shoot this movie on a shoestring budget and have this cast. And also even with the limited budget, it still didn't feel like it was a limited budget.
Yes. They definitely made the most out of everything. They had there was on one of the Criterion Blu-ray, there's a special feature where Joel, Ethan, and Barry, they rewatch the movie and commentate it. And
that's cool.
It was really cool. And this was, I think they shot this in 2016 at some film festival where they had rewatched it, and they were talking about, like, right off the bat, they were talking about how they couldn't afford a plane ticket for everyone to fly down to Texas to shoot it, and that Ethan Coen was, like, really the only one on set because Joel said that Ethan knew how the camera worked better than he did. So it's just crazy how they really came from true humble beginnings, and they were able to create their vision in their first movie, and that vision has not really wavered in any of their movies since then.
So the Coen brothers are from Minnesota, is that correct?
I don't know that. I don't know.
I think they are. Anyway.
Hey, Walter, can you look up to see where the Coen brothers are from, please?
I wanted to know where they're from, but also Barry Sonnenfeld so he famously directed all of the Men in Black movies.
That's right. Yeah.
But before that, he was cinematography. He's credited for cinematography on When Harry Met Sally, Misery, Raising Arizona, Big, Miller's Crossing, which was another
a couple
Coen
of
brothers.
other. Yeah, he did like 2 or 3 more Coen brothers movies.
Yeah. So I didn't know that When Harry Met Sally is one of my favorite movies. It's so good. It looks incredible. It's like the most beautiful New York city I've ever seen in a movie. I was like, oh man, like I didn't know that he was an early collaborator with them. So
right, I don't think they started working with Roger Deakins until The Big Lebowski, but I could also be very mistaken on that. But yeah, Barry, that has an pretty incredible resume you just named off.
Yeah,
Real quick, Joel and Ethan Coen were born and raised in St. Louis Park, Minnesota, a suburb of Minneapolis.
Nice. Okay,
oh,
that's what I thought.
Nice.
You are welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Walter, for being a good producer. The best producer.
Yes, sir.
John Getz is also like, I didn't realize how prolific he's been as well. Like he's been in, he was in Social Network and Zodiac and The Fly. And
he plays one of the lawyers defending or representing Andrew Garfield, him and Rashida Jones.
Oh, okay.
They're at that like long table.
Yep.
While Eduardo is fighting Mark Zuckerberg for the rights over Facebook. Yeah, he's great in this. He was probably my favorite character. So on the topic of characters, there aren't in many Coen brothers movies. You think there's a redeemable character, then each character has their obvious flaw or weakness. I'm trying to think. There's not really a likable character that you root for. Probably, I guess, Frances McDormand. But
even then, yeah.
Extramarital affairs. I mean, the guy seems like her husband seemed like a nice guy until he obviously is hiring a private investigator to spy on her. So is he really that great of a guy?
Right.
So
not only to spy on her, but to then kill her and her lover.
Yeah, and I was the way this movie starts off, I was like, wait, is this really a Coen Brothers movie? Because I'm like, I was having trouble pinpointing where this was going to go the first 15, 20 minutes. And I was like, oh, okay, this is where it's going to go. When he hires the PI, I forgot his name already, to go kill Francis and John
Visser.
Yes.
Yeah. Who was the opening quote of this episode?
Yes.
And that's how Blood Simple opens as well.
Right. So let's back up to the cinematography, because most of this movie is shot at night. I'm trying to think. There's like maybe 2 or 3 scenes where it's actually in daytime and it's not that long. I think the scenes that were in the bar were like I think Olivia, this is something you sent with like the neon lighting, but there's the bar signs and the way that the bar is lit and the music plays in those scenes where they're in that bar are just very fun to look at.
Yeah.
And that sounds very, very simple and basic to say, but I said it.
Well, so I think, I don't know, I'm always a sucker for a good soundtrack, and I can't remember what the song is that plays when they're in the bar, that Maurice, the bartender, I think he might be the only redeemable character.
That's right.
But whatever song he puts on the jukebox like that, I was like, okay, I'm in. This is a groovy song. I'm very pulled into this. Like that feels like the type of bar I would want to go to, right, on a Friday night or Saturday night. And something, this has nothing to do with cinematography necessarily, but I just want to throw this in there because I think it like, I had to pause it when it happened. So you know how they would have the outside shot of the bar and you'd see the like cow?
Yes.
With a sign. Mm-hmm. There was, so in my hometown of Duncan, Oklahoma, there was a cow that looked exactly like that. that had a big Goodner's was the name of the store that it was in front of. And when that store went out of business, that family, the Goodner's family, opened up a barbecue place, and so the cow moved over there. And nice. I was like, I didn't know there was more than one. What if it's the same one? I have no idea if it's the same one. But
honestly, now that you said
that's pretty cool.
It does look like a very familiar cow.
Yeah, like it just threw me off because I was like, I haven't thought about that cow in years, and then here I am watching this movie from the 80s, and I see this Goodner's cow out in front of the bar. It really threw me off. But anyway, that has nothing to do with cinematography, but the way that it was shot and filmed, but also those outside shots of the bar were really cool shots, I thought.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
There's that scene that we're talking about where you first see Maurice and he's coming into, or no, he jumps off the bar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He
walks across the bar. Yeah. The camera's following his feet, both to the jukebox and back from the jukebox. Great. Loved it.
Yeah.
So
very,
cool.
Very cool.
Very inventive. You could tell it's like, you know what? Let's try this. And it worked. But in a great way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, what? I was like, I don't think I've ever seen a shot like that. Mm-hmm. And Olivia, you mentioned it. Yeah. The music was just the icing on the cake. I was like, okay, this is very cool and not something I would have expected, honestly, from like a first Coen Brothers movie.
Right.
So, and there's that setting is the bar is probably one of the primary settings of the movie. It's where a lot of the action takes place. And then there's, of course, John Getz's house, which is, there's some some of the scenes at John Getz's house, it feels like it comes from like a horror movie with how Emmett Walsh's
I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah, he comes in there. I was like, that is very interesting, the way that it was shot. It definitely had like horror-y vibes to it. And then I read and found out that Sam Raimi actually kind of advised them on how to shoot some of the scenes during that sequence, specifically the scene where John Getz is out in the lawn and he is shooing off Frances McDormand's husband. They use like a handy cam, shaky cam is what they call it, and they got that directly from Sam Raimi and how Evil Dead was shot. So
yes, so the scene, and I know exactly what scene you're talking about. And just minor correction, I think it's when he grabs Frances McDormand's, or he grabs.
Oh yes,
Abby,
you're right. Yes.
And he's like pulling her outside.
Yes.
The camera just seems to fly up onto both of
yeah.
them, and the Sam and I was like, that looks like Evil Dead. They had to have like got that from Raimi, or like maybe they did it first and Raimi did it later. But Evil Dead came out, I think, in 78. or 79.
Yeah, it's
so
the
it was
late
like
70s.
several years before Blood Simple. And that scene that they were clearly inspired by, Raimi got a cam on a like fixed to a bike. He rode it down a hill through the house where Evil Dead is set and rode it all the way up till he was right on Bruce Campbell's face. And what actually happens is Bruce Campbell turns around. It's supposed to be like the evil spirit of the forest, like coming up on him. And it's right at the end of the movie. And Bruce Campbell turns around and like screams, and then the movie ends. But what happened is Sam Raimi slammed into him, and the camera like broke his nose. I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
It like
Oh
at
my
least like
gosh.
bruised his face. I know, but it like knocked into him. They all fell down. But yeah, no, I've talked about how I love Evil Dead on this podcast before, but that scene I was like, that's Evil Dead. Like they had to have like there's some connection with Raimi,
Right.
So I got really excited when I saw that.
Yeah, they directly called out Sam Raimi and Evil Dead for inspiring and pretty much creating that scene for them. So that was really one of the standout scenes for me. And of course, the other one I loved, and it's typical. It's like a Coen brothers staple now, is the body disposal. When John Getz's character is disposing of Frances McDormand's husbands, and I'm terrible with names, so I'm just saying the actors.
Yep.
And
Marty is her husband's name.
Yes. Marty's body. And that scene goes on for 30 minutes, and there's not a single word spoken.
Yeah.
That was the scene. That was the scene or the segment, I guess, that sequence. I apologize. That was where I was most challenged to stay engaged. And the more I've reflected on it, and sorry, Olivia, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No, you're good.
I think that it's worth noting how the Coen brothers really, all of their movies are really about like normal people who talk a big game, but when it comes down to it, they usually can't measure up to their own expectations. That's what I really love about their movies. Inside Llewyn Davis, Oscar Isaac's character reacts some way. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? George Clooney's like has to reconcile with the fact that he's a disappointment to himself. In True Grit, Maddie is like all tough, and she's interesting because she's a girl, and she's a little girl at that, and she ends up actually like shooting Josh Brolin. So that scene, the more I've reflected on it, with him trying to take care of the body, there are like 3 times where he almost kills him, and then finally he ends up just burying him, and it's really, really horrifying and sad. And Marty pulls out the gun. You think he's going to be able to shoot Ray because you saw earlier that there were 3 bullets in there. And then he ends up not, and he ends up just burying him alive, and it's really terrible.
And what's crazy is all of that happens at night, and then the scene ends and it's daylight, and you find out he just buried it in someone's farmland.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about that when like as the sun was rising, you could see the tire marks, right?
Yeah.
The tire tracks in the field, and I was just thinking, imagine being that poor farmer who plowed all of that land probably the day before, and has to go out there and see some yahoo has like just driven through his field, and then he probably is the one who ends up finding the body. Just that poor farmer, you know. I was gonna ask though, Eric, you said that there was no spoken dialogue for like 30 minutes, and
13. Yeah.
13, mm-hmm. My bad. It felt like 30 minutes because it was so quiet. But I was wondering, and I can't remember this because I watched it Sunday, a couple days before we recorded this. Was there any like score during that time? Like I remember it's like the sound of the cars and that kind of thing. But was there score?
Yes, I think there was. Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious.
I think there's just like instruments playing. But it's really, I think that scene is just showing that Ray, and it's something that Isaac touched upon, is Ray is completely out of his element, mm-hmm. and just scrambling to save Frances McDormand from, at the time he thought that she had killed Marty. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what that point of that scene is, and I think it's just mind blowing to me that it went on for 13 minutes, but it felt like longer than that.
Yeah,
and that was really, I think that's one of the standout scenes to me.
And it's funny too, because like it's one of those movies where I rarely put myself in the, well, I don't want to say that. This movie makes you walk a mile in its character's shoes, because I'm thinking like, I would have just like not touched that body. Like when,
absolutely.
I would have thrown it in the incinerator.
Yes, that, like, because Visser's role in this whole movie is really interesting, because he gets hired to take pictures, first of all, then he gets hired to kill them. And something interesting about his character is you realize, so like he doctored the photos of them sleeping to make it look like he had killed them.
Mm-hmm.
And you're thinking he could have doctored the photos or he could have killed them. At this point, we don't know. And then he shoots Marty. And you're like, okay, maybe he's like going to make a clean break now that he has this $10,000 and just leave town. And then he leaves his cigarette lighter there that says Man of the Year on it. Got to be more careful.
I love that.
And
touch.
He then that eventually leads him back to try to kill, successfully kill Ray and attempt at killing Abby. And you realize, like, why would he not kill these two people that he was paid to kill, but then kill the guy who hired him? It just makes you think, it makes you wonder, like, does he have some kind of moral compass? Because he's really the one, if you think about it, who is driving the narrative of the story in terms of like, he has the opening line about like, you got to fend for yourself. Like, no one's going to help you. In Russia, like, they get paid 50 cents a day. You know, he's saying stuff like that. It's just really interesting. And then eventually he ends up meeting his demise at Abby's hands in a very fitting ending, final girl sort of conclusion. But this movie's really complicated, and the character motivations are really complex, and it's really incredible.
For a 90-minute movie, you get more out of these characters than the 2.5 hour movies that you normally get this day and age.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think I did think about, why did Emmett Walsh's character decide to kill off Marty and not the couple?
Yep.
And I don't know what ultimately came of that thought, but that was something
because you realize later, like, he's not above killing two innocent people, because he ends up killing Ray and trying to kill Abby because he's like, oh, you have evidence, so I got to cover my tracks. He's not above it, but it's like, well, why did he make that decision in that moment? That's what's really interesting to me about him, his character. So
let's talk about Frances McDormand's character, because I think we've really touched on everybody except her. What'd y'all think about her character, her performance? Of course, it's Frances McDormand. I don't think she's ever had a bad performance.
So true.
Yeah, no, I don't know anything I've ever seen her in. She's been incredible. So once again, she's incredible in this. The character of Abby is really interesting, because it's like, why are you sleeping with one of your husband's bartenders? Like, what? Like, I want to know. I think there has to be something that
Ray is very good looking when compared to Marty.
I mean,
like, Marty
sure.
is batting out of the park with Abby.
Sure. No, I agree with you. Ray is much more attractive than Marty. Also, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but this is something I noticed. The amount of body hair on these two men, especially Marty,
100%.
I was like, oh, is he wearing a fur? No, that's his body hair. And just to, like, that would never happen. There would never be that much body hair in a movie that comes out today. Ever, but especially on a man. It's just like, that would not happen unless, like, even if he had been on a deserted island for months and months, like that guy would still have like a very clean chest. It was just very funny to me. Anyway, I wanted to make that little side note, but yeah, like I don't know. I don't think Marty was as good of a guy. I'm not saying it's okay that Abby cheated on him, but it doesn't seem like he was like super good to her anyway, and he kind of seemed like a douchebag. I mean, really. I don't know. That was my thought on I was interested by Abby, but again, like Eric, you said, there wasn't really anyone to root for because they're all very flawed.
Yes.
Which maybe that's
a lot
kind of the beauty of it.
Right. And that is a lot. There's no clear protagonist in the Coen brothers world. You think you have someone that you pull for, but then you realize, you start pulling for Abby. Well, she cheated on her husband.
Mm-hmm.
You pull for Ray, and you're like, Abby's the person that she is cheating on with. So that is just something I think that the way that they write their characters is, and that shows that everyone is flawed. Like there's no perfect character or perfect person. So that, I think is just I can't. It goes back to the way that this movie is written is just I can't wrap my head around that. It's their first movie and first screenplay that they ever did. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the beauty of the Coen brothers and their characters is that they're always flawed, right? Like you can pick any character from any movie that is the main character. Or one of the main characters, and they're all very flawed in some way, but so are we, right? So is everyone else, and so I think that's kind of the beauty of it, for me at least, is seeing. Yeah, Abby cheated on her husband. That's not cool.
Cool.
But also, I gotta side with Abby out of everyone. Kind of reiterating what y'all said because women have this instinct about bad men, and she married a man who was willing to hire a PI to kill her, and she ended up figuring that out. So
she did. That's
I don't know.
Listen, I tell my clients all the time, especially my female clients who are in really bad relationships, trust your gut. And it seems like Abby was trusting her gut, leaving that relationship with Marty, because clearly I've heard lots of really horrible things about relationships, and some of them I'm like, yeah, that person might kill them. But those people got out of those relationships, thankfully, right? So clearly Marty was willing to have Abby and Ray killed, even though, dude, if you're gonna kill someone or hire someone to kill it, do it yourself, man up.
That's true.
I don't know. Just my thought. Like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. Because I'm not going to trust someone else to screw that up for me.
But as Donald Trump said, very good advice, honestly, don't leave a paper trail.
Yeah. But really, don't leave the paper trail. And he did. And then freaking Visser left a paper trail. He left
his lighter.
Yeah.
Man of the year. I love that it says Man of the Year on it.
That was
like,
such a great touch. That I guess evolved to the Big Lebowski Man of the Year. The dude.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Where he's looking in the mirror.
Yeah. I think I don't know who my favorite character is. It's probably Ray because, I mean, he is obviously Abby is cheating on Marty with Ray, but he has Abby's heart at like that is his priority, I guess. Mm-hmm. Like everything he does is for her, so I guess that's kind of a redeemable trait. But
I love that scene where they're sleeping and she's talking about how like she would tell him like, how come why am I the crazy one and I go to my psychiatrist and he tells me that I'm totally sane, and then you fire my psychiatrist, and it's like the middle of the night, and he's like, do you ever sleep? He just like is like, can we please? And she's like, no, not much really. And then they end up going to sleep.
Yeah. So let's talk about the ending shootout scene, the finale of Marty trying to, well, he successfully kills Ray, unfortunately. I was heartbroken when he got shot, because that was who I was pulling for. And then there's that final confrontation between Marty, or not Marty, Visser's character and Abby, where it is like another horror scene.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would love to see the Coen brothers do a straight up horror movie.
Yeah, that would be fun. Because you definitely get like the way that the violence is portrayed in their movies. You get snapshots of it, of the way that they're able to create these dreadful scenes in like 1 minute increments.
Eric, yeah, what are your thoughts on the final shootout?
I thought it was awesome because I had no idea that it was going to start with Visser sniping off of a rooftop of another building.
Yeah, that was cool.
I was like, okay, so we are going there for this movie. And the way that was shot was really great. And this goes back to the horror elements that we've talked about. When Visser is chasing after Frances McDormand, there's that one scene where she like juts her hand or his hand in the window, then like stabs it full on. I was like, holy, like, yeah, I was not expecting
really,
that at all.
Really thrilling, because
that was like completely out of the tone of the movie. And I was like, okay, this is great, and it really felt like an ending to a Final Girl horror movie, with Frances McDormand ultimately surviving at the end.
What do we want to consider this a Final Girl? I mean, I feel like it meets all the qualifications.
It definitely does. She
is the final girl.
She gets it on with Ray, which is a signature trope of horror movies.
True.
And the final girl.
Although Jamie Lee didn't have that happen.
Yeah, she didn't.
Or Sigourney.
That's right.
But I think since then that has become the trend.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I think it was just amazing, and I'm so glad that Frances McDormand was able to do this movie, and it was really the great launching point to her career, because she's just done so many iconic roles, and now that after seeing this, this might be one of my favorite ones. Of course, next to Transformers.
Naturally, of course.
Yes,
gotta talk about it.
That. But what did y'all think about it?
Isaac, go ahead.
I am going to change the subject real quick because I took some notes. There's a scene where he's driving. I guess he has him in the car, and then he freaks out, stops the car. Okay, real quick, right there. Yeah, so, before that, he stops the car, and he's freaked out, and he jumps out and, like, just runs away. Because I guess he heard him move in the back seat, right?
Yeah.
And then when he comes back, the door's open, he's gone, and it's this clear. His class is like, "Oh, this dude,
still alive.
This dude is still alive." And then after that, he's driving back. I think this is when it happens, or maybe it's on the way when this happens. He turns the radio on, and there's a radio preacher.
That's before.
And
yes.
That's before.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's John 6:18, and he says, "A strong wind was blowing, and the waters grew rough." And it's basically like when Jesus was out, he walked on water out to the disciples. Symbology there, or symbolism there.
I like symbology better.
Symbology?
Yeah.
Symbology is a term I use at work. I don't think it's the correct term here.
It's a study. It's the study of symbolism.
So, not what I was going for, but
I completely thought that was a made-up word.
I just made that
the
up.
symbolism.
It was Tom Hanks' job in oh my gosh, what was that movie based on the book? Da Vinci
Cloud
Code.
Da Vinci Code.
Yeah. I said it first.
Okay.
Nice.
Classic.
Anyway, symbolism
that's it.
there, because this is like true South radio preachers at night. And then also neighborhood representation, the scenes with Ray's house. It's like, that looks like the neighborhood I grew up in. And I'm sure like it looks a lot like Fort Smith, like all of these subdivisions in the South all look the same. And it's like, man, that looks like my neighborhood. So
I love
and then sorry, Eric, go ahead.
You might be saying it. I love the little comedic bit where when everyone is shoot off from Ray's house, they turn to right into the cul-de-sac. But it's really
That's what I was
yeah,
going
they
to say.
turn around and come back the same way.
Marty,
I think it
Marty
happens twice. In the second
Marty
time, like,
drives down the cul-de-sac, and Ray goes, I'd love to see the look on his face when he realizes he drove down into the cul-de-sac. Which, like, I don't think I've ever driven. Yeah, I don't think I've ever been like mad driving down a cul-de-sac, but once I figure out like I took a wrong turn, I'm in a cul-de-sac, it's so irritating. And so I can only imagine having that very intense confrontation with my ex and, they're the person they cheated on me with, and then having to just awkwardly drive past them again. Just embarrassing. Like, that's just so embarrassing.
In any other movie, they would have just turned left, and we would not have gotten the cul-de-sac comedic bit.
Or they would have like gone up into the other person's yard as they're trying to do a U.
Yeah.
So
I would right back in the mailbox.
Yeah. Another got to give a shout out to crickets, because at one point I thought there were bugs in my house, and I paused the movie and I was like, nope, it's just the movie. It's just like really, really loud crickets, which
Isaac,
I honestly like. I love.
No, I love that you said that, because it sounds like, Oklahoma or Arkansas on a summer night, right?
Yep.
Like, it sounds like those nights where you would leave the windows open. Not now, because people don't do. I guess some people do that. I don't leave the windows open at night, but
Ray
what are you,
also
crazy?
just left the door unlocked to his.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a big Southern thing. Like, he just didn't leave his door unlocked. This dude's not gonna come kill me.
Right.
It's an 80s thing, and it's a Southern thing.
Yep,
and
exactly.
that was one of my I was always the last one in college to go to bed, because my roommates would just leave the door unlocked. And I'm like, we are a bunch of like women, and not to say that we can't handle ourselves, but on the offhand chance that like a group of men come in and try to assault us, I would like to have the door open, or the door locked, not open. And they didn't understand why I was so paranoid about that. I'm like, they're like, nothing's gonna happen. We live in Conway. I'm like, things happen in Conway all the time. What are you guys talking about? Anyway.
I've been on the west side of Conway.
I was talking with Jess the other day, and I was like, do you like the sound of cicadas? And she was like, not really. Like, I think it's just loud and kind of annoying. And for me, cicadas and crickets are like, not even joking, like some of my favorite sounds, like to listen to. Like just especially cicadas. Usually it's like, I think it's associated with, summer and like having fun and staying up late and, getting into shenanigans with friends. But I didn't like actually put a finger on that until like a couple months ago. I was like, I love that noise. And same with crickets. So
yeah, no, I agree with you. It just reminds me of summer and spending time with friends, and like especially in like high school when I would do stuff like we would go play ultimate frisbee on the football field. Eric, did you ever play with us?
I did not. No.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry you weren't invited.
I wasn't invited. I was just like, nah. Then they just
okay. Okay, cool. Glad you were invited, but just
he was
decided
too
not
cool.
to come. That's fair. It was
the chillest member
It
of the
was
pod.
actually a lot of my friend circle played ultimate.
Yeah, it was really popular when we were in high school, but I like think about that the most, of like summer nights going and playing ultimate frisbee on the football field, which is weird that wasn't locked and like closed off to the public, but people would go over there all the time.
I would go on UCA's football field every once in a while.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was unlocked. I climbed up on the scoreboard one time.
Are you serious? Do you have a picture of that?
No, I was with an ex-girlfriend. It was fun.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
Yeah. But also, Eric, remember when you dropped golf balls off of the school bus?
Yeah, that's a classic memory.
That's
high school.
Eric, that's like my favorite thing. I remember that about you, and I'm like, Eric's so cool.
I thought about that the other day. Actually, that's probably one of the best stories I've ever heard from anyone.
Yeah, going back and thinking about that could have turned out terribly for a lot of people.
Yeah,
namely the school district of Fort Smith.
I think I speak for everybody when I say I want to hear the full story on this one.
Oh, Walter, you don't even know that.
This was pre-Walter.
Do the listeners know it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Tell it again for new people / me.
I guess it's a fan favorite.
Do it.
So I was on the golf team back in high school, and we would play in matches across the state, and we would take the school bus to and from the destinations. And one of the shenanigans that we would do is while we were on the interstate, we would just roll the window down and drop golf balls out the side of the window while we're on the interstate and see if it could or would dodge cars that were also on the interstate.
Oh my gosh.
Unfortunately, we did not. We did not hit any cars.
It's so hard to imagine you doing that like right now as an adult.
Yeah. Going back at it. It was definitely the crowd of people that I hung out with that dragged me into those shenanigans.
Yeah,
okay,
that makes sense.
I feel like golf is typically associated with like rich upper class like people, like that's the sport that like upper class people who are like well to do. But I've never seen a group of golfers who were not like super rowdy.
Oh,
like,
I know. It's Paige McCain.
Oh, Paige McCain is one of my favorite people in the entire world. Yeah. And that kid, man, that kid is so rowdy, but she is also one of the best people in the entire world.
She is pretty incredible. I've known her since my young childhood days. I don't think she was on those trips. I think she might have rode on a different bus. But yeah, that... I'm just glad no one got hurt.
yeah. Paige is also one who's like always up for anything.
Yeah, she's incredible.
So she's the best. I don't know if Paige listens to this, but if you do, Paige, just know we love you very much.
Yes, we love you, Paige.
So
that is the story. I don't even know where we were at before that.
That's my bad. I made you get off track.
Cicadas.
About cicadas and crickets. But
it reminds us of the good old high school days.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Another. This is like my last little observation about this movie. So, I love when movies show their characters just like dripping sweat the whole time. Mm-hmm. It doesn't happen very much anymore. Most famously, recently, Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock sweats like so much throughout those movies, and he's not hot or glamorous. He's just like sweating and like stumbling around and like eating stuff. Everybody's really sweaty in this movie except the famous scene where Marty is crawling on the ground on the road and Julian's like dragging the shovel towards him, and in the headlights Marty's breathing and you can clearly see his breath, which means it has to be like pretty cold outside. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I was confused about like what time of year this was, because in the morning it looked pretty warm and people are sweating. And so I was like,
that's right.
I don't know what time of year. So I just pay attention to this weird stuff like that.
But
that's a good call out though.
But also think about how many times you have to wear a sweater to work in the mornings. But by the time it's 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it's 1,000,000 degrees. And you're like, I wish I was wearing like shorts and a t-shirt.
So maybe, it is like very accurate depiction of weather in the South for sure.
Yep. Well, any final thoughts on the movie before we wrap up here? I think we're coming up on time. Isaac, Olivia.
I could keep going for like an hour, but when Visser says to Marty when he realizes that so Abby broke in the altercation with the Evil Dead-esque shot, Abby breaks Marty's finger and he gets it set, and Visser says, "Stick your finger up the wrong person's ass." Like, it's the most obnoxious thing, but I also like just died laughing whenever he said it. And then when he's walking up to find Visser, this teenager's is like, "Hey, mister, how'd you break your pussy finger?"
Yes.
It's really funny.
Yeah,
Which is, something like some freaking snot-nosed teenager would say some crap like that.
Yes.
Just to piss him off.
It's very authentic dialogue.
Yeah.
How I describe it.
I think my favorite line from the movie was, or the favorite little like comedic bit was when Maurice confronts Ray and is like, "Hey, what's going on?" And Ray's got a cigarette in his mouth and Maurice takes it and goes, "These are coffin nails." And like that, I've never heard them referred to as coffin nails, but now that's all I'm going to refer to cigarettes as. And then he takes that same cigarette and puts it in his mouth and lights it, which is like typical. I feel like everyone who smokes cigarettes is like, you shouldn't smoke cigarettes, but then they continue to smoke cigarettes themselves. But I thought that was a great line.
Yeah, movies just make smoking cigarettes look very cool. When in reality, they are cool.
They make it look so cool.
Yeah. I got to come up with the list, the coolest characters to smoke cigarettes on screen. I think
John Hamm has got to be like in the top 5.
Oh, he does smoke a good cigarette.
Watching Mad Men made me want to smoke. I was like, God, these people are so hot, and I want to like smoke a cigarette.
Isn't like half of that movie just take place within tobacco smoke?
Yes, they're smoking constantly.
Nice.
Yeah. As far as like final thoughts of the movie, though, I really enjoyed this movie. I'm glad that we watched it. I don't think I realized Frances McDormand was a final girl, but I'm really glad that we came to that conclusion. Mm-hmm. And I know we've said it, but man, what a debut for the Coen brothers. Like, really knocked it out of the park and continued to just keep the hits coming. This movie was only like an hour and a half, and I know that we've all talked about how we love the 90-minute movie. And Eric, you said this, not a single scene was wasted. And I think that it takes a really like special director, set of directors to do that. I think it's really hard to be completely like use every scene well. And I think that they did that.
Yep. Absolutely. And I think if I was going to describe this movie poorly, I'd just say that this is just a movie about how important communication is.
Yeah.
In relationships. Because this movie is like the letterbox synopsis is just like leads from one miscommunication to another, and then everyone dies.
Nice. No, I'm glad how you found the deep hidden meaning in the plot, because I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, because she's like, wait, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Did y'all have an argument or something?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, no, he's like dead. Like, I buried him in a field.
Yeah, there's like 15 minutes. I'm like, Ray, dude, just spill the beans. Why are you not telling Abby what the hell is going on? Like, you can talk to this girl, dude. But great summary of the movie, Olivia and Isaac. I'm glad y'all enjoyed it. I enjoyed it as well. I don't know what we are doing for our next episode, Isaac.
Let me, if y'all can vamp for just a second, I'll pull up our schedule.
All right. So, I don't know how this ranks up against some of my favorite Coen Brothers movies. I'll have to watch it again. I'm definitely going to rewatch it, just given the short runtime of it and how much I enjoyed it. My favorite, of course, is The Big Lebowski. Olivia, do you have a favorite or favorites of the Coen Brothers?
I was just looking up my letterbox to try to figure out what my favorite one is. I watched The Big Lebowski recently for the first time.
Awesome.
And it was so good. And I was really annoyed because the person I watched it with kept trying to like talk about it, and I was like, stop talking about it. I need to just sit and watch this movie.
This is why I don't do these movie hang things.
Yeah.
If people watch movies with you, they have to take an oath of silence or something.
Yeah.
Shut the hell up. I'm trying to watch this.
It'd be different if I had seen it before, but I'm like, bro, I haven't seen this. Please be quiet.
Try to watch a movie with Walter. That's crazy.
Whoa. Come
Check
for
out
our
our
producer
check
like
out our
that.
YouTube, Flyover After Dark,
Where me and Walter do that.
and then you can watch a movie with me.
That is a smooth plug.
Our next, the next bit of content that you'll be getting from me and Walter and the Flyover team in general is the first episode of our Heat commentary. So we're going to break it into 2 parts because Heat is an incredible movie and it's also incredibly long. It's 3 hours long.
Isn't there a director's cut as well?
Possibly.
Lord.
I've never seen the director's cut. I've only seen it once. But that's going to be published either January 31st or February 1st or 2nd. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, somewhere in that window.
Yep. It's a 3-day window. It's fine.
Yeah.
And then we are doing
Wait, when are we recording that?
January 29th.
Wait, you're going me to edit that whole? Hold on.
No, just part 1.
Yeah, what I'm saying is like part 1 is the movie's how long? 3 hours?
Yeah. So it's an hour and a half of editing.
Well,
Y'all can take your
Isaac
relationship problems
thinks really
offline.
highly of me and my editing skills.
I sure do. Anyway, I guess that publishing date is out the window. So just be on the lookout for Heat Part 1.
No, it'll be soon. It's coming.
Walter, did you say we might turn that into a podcast episode?
Oh, yeah. No, I was saying, I said our latest Flyover After Dark, which was Nightmare Before Christmas, I thought was actually pretty good. And it ended up being like, I think it was close to like 40 minutes. And I was thinking about putting it up as a podcast episode just because like,
We talk about a lot of stuff.
We actually don't really talk about the movie that much as we're watching it. So like you don't really have to be watching to get like the full effect of me and Isaac. So been thinking about doing that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Heat will be coming, maybe not in podcast form, but definitely on YouTube. We're doing our top 5 rom-coms in honor of Valentine's Day, the greatest day of the year.
Okay.
I'm being sarcastic.
I think Galentine's Day is the greatest day of the year. Am I right, ladies?
Exactly. That's going to be going up on Saturday the 12th. And then we may have time in our schedule in February for another Flyover film. So we will discuss that.
Awesome.
Eric, great pick on Blood Simple. Way to go.
Wait,
on that.
Do we have one more thing we wanted to talk about? A new thing that we are implementing for a community?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, someone take that. I am
Eric, do you want to take that one? Actually?
Eric, take it.
prepared.
All right. So be on the lookout on our social media accounts on Twitter and Instagram for our link to our Discord community, the Flyover Film Show.
We have a
server.
Discord now.
Yes, it is
Discord.
popping off with memes. I try to post a meme daily for levity, and it is for just anybody in the community to engage with us, with each other, and just have fun and talk about movies or anything else that you want to talk about. So be on the lookout for that.
Yep, we'll be posting links to that. This is something that we've wanted to do for a little bit because, I don't know, I don't speak for everybody maybe, but we would like to foster more of a community and have opportunities for people to, to talk to us and for us to talk back to you. So I'm excited about it.
Yes.
Yep. It'll be a lot of fun. We have access to it throughout the day, so love to chat with y'all. So hop on there. It'll be fun. Y'all have any final comments?
No, I'm glad that we were able to watch and discuss Blood Simple. It is currently streaming on HBO Max and the Criterion Channel. So I think we highly recommend it as a group.
Absolutely.
Essential.
Absolutely.
So, Isaac, could you wrap up the episode for us because I don't know how to do that.
Thank you for listening. Thank you to Eric for this awesome pick.
This episode was produced by Walter Lyle. Our music is by Jordan Jocks. Our artwork is by Macy Lummis. Our next episode will be top 5 rom-coms around Valentine's Day. Our next Flyover After Dark will be Heat Part 1 at the end of this month / the beginning of February. Thank you guys, Olivia, Walter, Eric. Y'all have a great night.